All right, how to never be boring in conversation with a girl. If you feel like you're the kind of guy who gets the number and then gets ghosted, so you take a girl's number and no matter what you text her, she just doesn't text you back. It just means that when you interacted with her, you did something wrong. You were kind of boring. And another thing that happens is if you start talking with a girl and you see that she's lost interest a couple of minutes into your guys' conversation, that means that you're boring. You're boring the shit out of her. So today we're going to see how to not do this. Okay. In this very guide, I have devised a plan for you, my man. I got you. So let's do this. Before going further, if you're getting value out of this video and you want to dive deeper into how to be not boring and how to excite girls and all the other fucking topics, go to the link in the description below, click it, and it will take you straight to our community. In our community, you will find all the tools that you need to start attracting super high quality women immediately. Okay, and with that said, here's what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about, first of all, about the mindset. Why girls get bored. Why are you doing this to them, bro? And then I'm gonna give you some tips, ranging from beginner tips like conversational techniques, physicality, and using the social element to your advantage, all the way to advanced tips like using grounded energy. So, with that said, and before I start rambling here, what makes me an expert? Why can't I talk about this? I've been teaching dating for 15 years, so it's quite a while now. And I have definitely bored a woman or two in my time as a young whippersnapper. And I decided to not do that anymore. And clawing and hacking my way through this jungle, I figured out how to not do that. And I distilled all of the advice in this guide. So let's hit it. Why women become bored? Why do you bore women? Women become bored not because they're fucking assholes. Women become bored because they're the exact same as you. You would become bored if you saw the exact same pattern over and over again. And that's what usually happens. Like anything that you keep seeing over and over again bores the shit out of you. So the thing that women see over and over again and bores the shit out of them is dudes who are docile, like a little too mellow, a little too feminine maybe, and definitely try to hide the fact that they're chatting her up so as to make her like them. Okay. It's the classic situation of a guy saying the same things that she's heard 1,000 times before in the same way she's seen and felt 1,000 times before. So, if you're a beginner, don't get discouraged. It's all good. And I'm not even mad at you. But you need to start changing some things. So, what doesn't bore women? First of all, in the logical plane of existence, and same goes for you as well, when a woman senses that there's value across from her, like you have value, that you're somebody that's kind of important, immediately, she's going to be tuned in. Okay. How does that work? If she feels like socially or financially, you have more power than her. And the way to communicate this is you don't even have to overtly, explicitly say it. She will see it in your demeanor, in your communication, in your eye contact, how you operate with other people. All of that, all of these signals kind of like give her that information. So on a logical plane, if she values or if she feels like you have more value than her, or even more self-esteem than her, if you're like very stable and like very slow in your movements, very controlled, she will absolutely she's going to deduce, she's going to see that, okay, this guy is worth paying attention to. And even if you're boring as fuck, you're still not going to bore her. And on an emotional plane, which is things that are hardwired into her since we were apes, she's going to not get bored if she senses just rugged, raw fucking masculinity. Okay, this is the thing that's going to make her not bored. So let's begin. Let's begin with the tips. Conversational strategy. I'm going to give you 3 different tips here, and this is all beginner stuff. And these are things that you can do very easily. Let's start with fractionation. Fractionation is a concept that I've jacked from hypnosis, which basically in this instance in conversation means that you can alternate between speaking about like surface level topics and about deep topics. And you go back and forth, back and forth. And like, it's one thing to, you know, lead conversationally and lead her from topic to topic, which is already kind of taking the burden off of her to carry the conversation. You're the one carrying the conversation, and she can like follow from one subject to the next and keep it, and you are keeping it exciting that way. But with fractionation, when you're in the one moment talking to her about deep feelings and emotional experiences and maybe values and boundaries and close personal relationships, and in the other moment you're talking to her about, you know, the weather, what happened today, like a funny story or something like that, this definitely will keep her attention hooked. It works like a charm, okay? The next thing is qualification. Qualification is magic because, first of all, it puts you in the power position because you're the one asking the questions. Qualification is basically, for everybody that doesn't know what it is figuring out if the girl is a good fit for you. Is making the girl qualify herself to you, making the girl justify herself and explain things about her to you, putting her in that position. So when you do that, you're the one that's asking the questions, like I said, so that gives you the power, that gives you the strength in the conversation, okay? That puts you in that role of like the examiner and the boss in a way. And of course, she's also talking about herself. And talking about ourselves, we are always our favorite topic. So we never get bored talking about ourselves. So if you want to not bore a girl, this is the way to do it. And at the same time, in qualification, you can ask questions one after the other and see what question hits her ego. What thing she's more identified with. And you'll be able to tell by, you know, physiological expressions, like her eyes are going to be wider, her voice is going to be more animated. So that's going to definitely help keeping her attention on you. Okay. Now, the last little thing that I want to say here in the conversational strategy portion of the video is the law of state transference. We've talked about this before, and generally here's how this works. When you're leading somebody, when you're leading conversationally or when you're leading physically, when you're walking first, for example, and somebody's following you, generally what tends to happen is that the emotional state that you carry in that very moment tends to be broadcast over to the other person who's following you. So if you're leading somebody, if you're leading an interaction, if you're approaching a woman, the way that you feel, she's gonna feel, inevitably. Okay, so if you don't feel bored, and you're leading her, she's not going to feel bored. So the takeaway here is talk about things that you value, okay? Don't talk about things that you think she's going to value, because that's going to make you happier, that's going to make you less bored, and that's also going to avoid her triggering that thing where, what we talked about in the beginning, where it's like the same shit that she's seen all over again because it's like dudes trying to make her like him, okay? Now, all of this is conversationally, but you can also operate physically. You can also make her like you, or make her like you, like completely the wrong word, but you can make sure that she doesn't get bored because of how you operate physically. So, number one, I want you to animate yourself. And that doesn't mean be a clown. That doesn't mean just go wide-eyed or anything like that, but instead, it means increase your energy, and by that I mean increase your intensity. Do you see how I'm fucking talking to you right now? There's no way that right now you're bored, even if you weren't paying attention because you were cooking something and had the video like next to you. Now you're focused on me. Now you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's one way to make sure that somebody's attention is on you and they're not getting bored. The second thing is breaking rapport. Breaking rapport is the opposite of building rapport. So in the beginning of interaction, and I've made other videos about this, it's good to make sure that the girl feels comfortable around you. So you're friendly, you're welcoming and engaging, but breaking rapport is kind of doing the opposite. So after, this friendliness has been established for the first time, because that's an important step, now you can roll that back. So you can start engaging physically, maybe pushing her away, maybe just elbow checking her lightly, or maybe you can tease her. You can be a little bit of a dick, and that brings you to the next point. You can be a playful asshole. You can alternate. This is kind of fractionation again, but this is more physical. You can alternate between being cocky and being funny. Not just one of them, but like both of them at the same time. Okay, this was an old seduction technique as well, and it works like a charm because every time something alternates, that keeps you hooked. There is no way to get bored of that. Okay, vanilla and chocolate. Let's go. Or strawberry and chocolate, if you will, if you're catching my drift. So, last but not least, in conversation with her, you can use the social element. You can engage others. You can bring others into the conversation. You can make sure that what's around you can become part of what's happening between you. Okay, if you're proactive in that, and make sure to not include the guy that looks like he's super high status and he might steal your girl, but instead include the girl who's walking by, who's kind of cute, maybe even a little bit cuter than her. Now you got competition. Okay, this social element is definitely going to make it so that she becomes less bored and definitely fucking attracted. And the other thing that you can absolutely do is start moving things forward. Because obviously, this is all about flirting, and we want to go to a certain point. We want to create a relationship, or we want to have sex. If you keep things moving forward, you're going to make it interesting for her. The main reason why dudes fail to keep women engaged and hooked and interested and make them bored is because they're stale. They're not moving things forward. And a very easy model to follow to move things forward, and we're going to be talking about this in future videos as well, is the open vibe qualify close model. So you start a conversation with a woman, you qualify her, you ask her about herself and make her justify or qualify herself to you. Then you vibe with her, you exchange energy, okay, and we're going to talk about this in a second, and then you close. So just move from one step to the next. That keeps things interesting, and that keeps things exciting. Now, for all of you guys who want to be a little more, or want to go a little bit more in depth, I want to have a more advanced conversation about this, and are past the point where you can just lead conversationally, and that's kind of stale for you. Generally, the more you advance socially and the more you understand social dynamics and the rules and how things work, the more you realize that instead of letting your words do the work, you can let your energy do the work. Okay. And case in point, I was walking on the street yesterday, was taking a little walk, my 10,000 step walk, to get my calories in for the day, or technically calories out. And this girl who's a model just walked by. She kind of crossed my path. I was literally just looking at the floor, just minding my own business. And I just turn, I'm like, excuse me. And she turns around, I look her in the eye, and I said 3 lines. Hi, what's your name? What are you doing here in Greece? What are you doing here? Because I realized she's not from here. Good. Well, let's hang out someday. Cool. Give me your number. That was the 4 lines that I told her. That was it. That was my demeanor as well. I was exactly the same as now. Cool girl. Super cute girl. It didn't take much more than this. Okay. So, how do we ground ourselves? Because how are we gonna make this energy do the talking for us? Pretty simple, actually. You need to cultivate the ability to pause the world. I've talked about this in other videos as well, and it's this ability to just ignore everything for a second so you can catch up with yourself. So you can be with so you can reignite or reground or reconnect with your sense of self. Because we're walking on the street and we're very concerned about like who's paying attention to us and where the hot girls are and like who's looking at us. And all of that is completely like you've just left yourself, like somewhere behind an hour ago. You haven't been in touch with yourself. So the way to do that, and if you can do that, is first of all, like I said, pause the world, like make everybody else wait for a second and ignore everybody and everything. Take a couple of breaths and kinesthetically just feel your body, feel where you are, feel your feet touch the floor, become grounded. Okay. Now, what groundedness, God damn it, results in are things like steady eye contact, but relaxed, not this fucking serial killer, murderous eye contact, okay? Slow moves, deep breaths, controlled movements, calm demeanor. That's what you being grounded looks like. And when you are like that, this is raw masculinity. This is what communicates to the girl that you're absolutely fucking present, that you're right here. And when she senses this, there's no way she's going to be bored. Okay. So with that said, I'll remind you again of the community. Click like and subscribe. And I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.